The massive alien marketplace buzzed with activity under three purple suns. Hundreds of different alien species walked, crawled, and floated between the market stalls. But today wasn't a normal market day. Today was auction day. John Miller stood tall among the other human prisoners. His military training showed in his straight back and steady gaze, even though he wore dirty prisoner clothes. Around him, 20 other humans huddled together, all of them captured during the recent space battles. The auction stage sat high above the crowd. Its black metal surface gleamed in the sunlight. Giant screens floated in the air, ready to show close-up views of each prisoner to the buyers. The smell of strange alien foods and the sound of different languages filled the air. Next group, humans from Earth. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Guards pushed John and the other prisoners toward the stage. That's when everything changed. The crowd suddenly went quiet. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps and worried whispers. John looked up and saw her, the alien queen. She was tall, almost 7 feet, with silvery skin that sparkled in the sunlight. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she walked. The crown on her head seemed to glow with its own light. Unlike the scary stories John had heard about alien rulers, her face looked calm and kind. Every alien in the market bowed as she passed. Even the guards dropped to their knees, but John stood straight, looking directly at her. He wouldn't bow to anyone who bought and sold people. The queen noticed. Her purple eyes met his brown ones. For a moment, time seemed to stop. "This group," she said, her voice soft but powerful. "I will take them all." The crowd gasped. Queens didn't come to auctions. Queens definitely didn't buy entire groups of prisoners. Something very strange was happening. The auction manager rushed forward, bowing so low his head nearly touched the ground. "Your Majesty, these are dangerous humans. They are soldiers. Perhaps you would prefer some household servants instead." The queen raised one of her hands, and the manager fell silent. "I have made my choice." She looked at John again. "Especially this one. He has spirit." John felt confused. Why would the queen of the most powerful alien empire want human prisoners? And why did she sound almost friendly? As the guards led them to the queen's massive ship, John noticed something interesting. The queen's guards didn't treat them roughly like the prison guards had. Instead, they gave them water and clean clothes. Inside the ship, the queen approached the human group. The other prisoners backed away in fear, but John stood his ground. She smiled at him. "You are no longer prisoners," she said. "You are under my protection now." "Why?" John asked. The other humans looked shocked that he dared to question the queen. Her next words changed everything. "Because your planet is in danger, and you deserve to know the truth. I bought every human prisoner in the markets today. Over 300 of your people." She paused, looking at each of them. "There are those who want to destroy Earth. I'm trying to stop them." John studied her face carefully. Years of military training had taught him to spot lies. He saw no deception in her eyes, only worry and determination. The queen turned to leave but stopped at the door. "Rest now. Tomorrow, you'll learn why I really brought you here. And," she looked at John again, "I'll need your help." As she left, the humans burst into excited whispers. John stayed quiet, thinking hard. Something big was happening. Something that made an alien queen rescue human prisoners and ask for their help. One thing was clear. His life was about to become very interesting. The royal palace floated 2 miles above the planet's surface, held up by ancient technology that humans could only dream about. John stood at a window, watching flying vehicles zip between the floating buildings like colorful fish in a coral reef. 3 days had passed since the auction. The queen had given him and the other humans private rooms in the palace's east wing. Not prison cells. Actual luxury rooms. Something definitely wasn't normal about this situation. "Guard Miller." A soft voice spoke behind him. John turned to find 6, one of the Queen's four-armed assistants, standing there. Her Majesty requests your presence. Alone. The other humans watched nervously as Zix led John through the palace corridors. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors as they walked. Other aliens they passed stopped and stared. Some looked angry to see a human walking freely in their sacred palace. The Queen's private garden took John's breath away. Plants from 1,000 worlds grew here, creating a rainbow forest of impossible colors. The Queen stood near a fountain that flowed upward instead of down. "You must have questions," she said, gesturing for him to sit on a floating cushion of light. "About 1,000,000, John replied, carefully sitting down. "Starting with why the most powerful being in the galaxy needs help from a human soldier." The Queen's silver skin shimmered as she moved to a strange blue plant. "Look at this flower. It's from Earth." She touched its petals gently. "Your world is one of the few places in the galaxy where plants produce oxygen. Did you know that?" John shook his head. "Earth is special, John. More special than your people know. There are those in my court who want to harvest your world's resources. They don't care that it would kill all life on Earth." Suddenly, a red light flashed through the garden. The Queen's eyes widened. "Down," she shouted, pushing John aside as a beam of energy burned through the space where they had been standing. John's military training kicked in. He rolled to his feet, scanning for threats. 3 shadowy figures moved among the plants, their bodies bending light around them like chinglians. The Queen raised her hands, and energy crackled between them. But before she could act, one of the assassins appeared behind her. Without thinking, John grabbed the strange blue earth flower and threw it at the attacker. The flower burst into a cloud of spores, causing the assassin to become visible and start coughing. "The purple one," the Queen shouted. "Grab it." John lunged for a purple plant near his feet. The moment he touched it, the electricity coursed through his body, but didn't hurt him. Instead, he could suddenly see all 3 attackers clearly, their cloaking technology useless. What happened next amazed even the Queen. John used his Earth combat training combined with his new electric ability to subdue the assassins. The fight was over in minutes. As palace guards rushed in, the Queen looked at John with new respect. "Now you understand," she said. "I need someone I can trust. My own people are trying to kill me because I protect other worlds." She walked to a wall and waved her hand. A hidden door appeared. "There's something you need to see." Inside was a massive room filled with hundreds of floating screens. Each showed a different part of Earth. Cities, forests, oceans. "This is how I've been protecting your world," she said. "But I can't do it alone anymore." She turned to John, her purple eyes serious. "Will you help me save both our peoples?" Before John could answer, one of the screens started flashing red. Something was happening on Earth. Something bad. The Queen's face grew worried. "We're running out of time." The emergency alert about Earth had turned out to be a false alarm, but John knew it was really a test. The Queen wanted to see how he'd react to a threat to his home world. He'd stayed calm and strategic, proving her right about choosing him. A week had passed since the assassination attempt in the garden. Now John stood in the Queen's private war room, surrounded by floating holograms showing star maps. The Queen, who had finally told him her name, Cheyenne, was teaching him to read alien military formations. "Your Earth tactics are unusual," she said, moving her 4 arms to adjust the hologram. "But that's exactly what we need. No one else thinks like your people do." John pointed to a cluster of red dots. "These ships here, they're not following standard patrol patterns." Cheyenne smiled. "You learn quickly. Yes, these are the traitors. They think they hide their movements well. But..." A loud explosion shook the room. Warning sirens blared. "My Queen." A guard burst in. "The prison level. The assassins from the garden. There." Another explosion cut him off. John was already moving. "They're not escaping," he said. "This is a diversion." Cheyenne's eyes widened. The core chamber. She grabbed John's arm. Come with me. Now. They ran through secret passages in the palace walls. Through gaps in the crystal, John saw chaos in the corridors. Guards running. Nobles hiding. Smoke filling the air. What's the core chamber? John asked as they ran. The heart of all our power, Shiana said. Not just the palace's technology. Our entire civilization depends on it. If someone corrupts it. They reached a massive door made of shifting black metal. Shiana pressed all four hands against it in a complex pattern. The door dissolved. Inside, John gasped. A sphere of pure energy floated in the center of the room, swirling with colors he'd never seen before. But something was wrong. Dark tendrils of some kind of virus-like energy were creeping through it. No, Shiana whispered. They're trying to poison it. How do we stop it? She looked at him strangely. John, touching the core would kill most aliens instantly. Even I can only handle it for a few moments. John looked at his hands, remembering the strange electric feeling from the purple plant in the garden. What about humans? Shiana's eyes widened. The oxygen adaptation. Theoretically. But I can't ask you to. John was already moving. You don't have to ask. He reached into the core. Pain like nothing he'd ever felt shot through him. But also, power. Images flooded his mind. The entire history of Shiana's civilization. The true nature of the universe. Secrets that human science hadn't even dreamed of yet. He saw the virus trying to corrupt the core. And somehow he knew exactly what to do. His Earth DNA, so strange to this alien power, acted like an antivirus program. The dark tendrils began to retreat. John. Shiana's voice seemed to come from very far away. You have to let go. Any longer, and it will burn you out. With tremendous effort, John pulled his hand back. He collapsed, but Shiana caught him with all four arms. Impossible, she whispered. You purified it. No one has ever. How do you feel? John tried to stand, then stared at his hands in shock. Faint lines of light pulsed under his skin, like circuits made of stars. I feel. He looked up at her. I can still see it. All of it. The connections between everything. The core, the palace, the ships in orbit. His eyes widened. Shiana, I know where the traitors are meeting, and you're not going to believe who's leading them. Shiana helped him up, her face both worried and amazed. You really can call me Shiana now. I think saving our civilization's heart earned you that right. She paused. What you did, it changes everything we thought we knew about humans. Warning alarms started again. The floating screen showed ships appearing around the palace, ships that shouldn't be there. Tell me about the traitors later, Shiana said. Right now, we need to. The entire palace shuddered. The screens went dark. The artificial gravity flickered. John looked at his glowing hands, then at Shiana. I think I can help with that too now. Shiana stared at him for a long moment. When I bought you at that auction, I never imagined. She straightened up, every inch a queen. Show me what a human with the power of the core can do. The space runner they'd stolen moved silently through the asteroid field, its cloaking systems enhanced by John's newfound connection to alien tech. Inside, John sat in the pilot's chair, faint lines of light still pulsing beneath his skin as he guided the ship with his mind. Beside him, Shiana monitored the emergency broadcasts. The news was shocking. Someone had leaked images of the queen fleeing her own palace with a human. Half the empire thought she was kidnapped. The other half thought she was a traitor. The core showed me something, John said, his eyes glowing slightly as he processed the ship's data. There's an ancient outpost on the third moon of Crixus. We'll be safe there. Crixus. Shiana's silver skin paled. That's in the dead zone. No ships return from there. Trust me, John smiled. The dead zone is a lie. Your ancestors created it to hide something. Their ship emerged from the asteroid field, revealing a stunning sight. 3 massive gas giants filled the view, their rings creating a natural maze of ice and rock. The smallest one had 7 moons, and the third glowed with a strange blue light. Suddenly, their sensors screamed. A massive warship decloaked directly ahead. Imperial command. A voice boomed through their comms. Surrender the Queen and the human specimen. John's eyes narrowed. Specimen. Shiana hissed in anger. That's General Vex's ship. He's the one who's been pushing for Earth's scientific study for years. She looked at John. He doesn't want to protect Earth. He wants to experiment on your people. The warship fired a warning shot, but John was ready. The core's power flowed through him into the ship's systems. Their small vessel dove through the gas giant's rings, ice particles scattering around their shields. They're not just after Earth, are they? John asked as he flew. The core showed me things, experiments, other worlds they've destroyed. No time. Chiana pointed ahead. A whole fleet of ships emerged from hyperspace. They're boxing us in. John smiled. Good thing we're not using their routes. He closed his eyes, connecting deeper to the ship. Hold on to something. Their ship shot straight down, plunging into the gas giant's atmosphere. Warning alerts screamed as pressure built around them. The pursuing ships fell back, unwilling to follow. John. Shiana's 4 arms gripped her seat. The hull can't take this pressure. The hull doesn't have to. John's voice had changed, echoing with the core's power. Watch. The lines of light under his skin grew brighter. Similar lines appeared across the ship's interior. Suddenly, they weren't fighting the gas giant's pressure. They were part of it. The ship moved like a fish through water, using the planet's own currents to propel them. They shot out the other side of the gas giant, but something was different. The ship's sensors showed they traveled thousands of light years in seconds. Impossible, Shiana whispered. The gas giants. They're connected. Your ancestors built a network, John explained as they approached the glowing blue moon. The core showed me. They hid it in plain sight, disguised as natural phenomena. The dead zone isn't dead. It's the only part of space they managed to keep free. The moon's surface parted like liquid as their ship descended. Inside was a vast city, preserved in perfect condition. But it wasn't built for Shiana's people. The corridors and rooms were sized for humans, Shiana realized. This was built for humans, but that would mean. Before she could finish, dozens of ships appeared on their sensors. The entire rebel fleet had somehow tracked them. Get to the city's core. John's skin was glowing brighter. I'll hold them off. John, there are too many. He turned to her, his eyes now swirling with the same colors as the core. Chiana, I understand now. Why humans are special. Why they want Earth so badly. And after what I just saw in that gas giant network, he stood up, power crackling around him. Let's show them why taking on a human was their biggest mistake. The rebel ships opened fire. John raised his hands, and the ancient city began to wake up. The ancient city's defense systems hummed to life under John's command. Golden shields of pure energy bloomed around them, effortlessly absorbing the rebel fleet's fire. But John wasn't looking at the battle above. His eyes were fixed on the massive hologram floating in the city's central chamber. It's a map, Shiana breathed, all 4 hands touching the glowing display, but not of our galaxy. No, John said softly. It's a map of human colonies, from over 50,000 years ago. The hologram showed hundreds of worlds connected by lines of light, the same kind of light that now flowed through John's veins. Earth was there, but it wasn't the birthplace of humanity. It was a refuge. Your people, John turned to Shiana, didn't discover humans. They rediscovered them. The core wasn't just showing me your civilization's history. It was showing me mine. A massive explosion rocked the city. Above them, General Vex's forces had brought in planet cracker weapons, forbidden technology capable of shattering moons. They're desperate, Shiana said. They know if this truth gets out. My queen. A new voice echoed through the chamber. They turned to see Zix, Shiana's trusted assistant, emerging from a hidden portal. The loyal houses have rallied. We've secured the palace. But John saw something the others didn't. Subtle lines of dark energy, like the virus that had infected the core, crawling beneath Zix's skin. Yeah. Move. John shoved her aside as Zix fired a beam of corrupted core energy. The blast hit John square in the chest, sending him flying across the chamber. Poor little humans. Zix's voice distorted, his form shifting grotesquely. Always trying to be heroes. Did you really think you could stop evolution? The truth hit John like a physical blow. The virus in the core, the corruption spreading through the empire, the obsession with Earth. It wasn't just about power. Something was trying to force its way into their reality. Zix's body continued to transform, growing larger, darker, wrong in ways that hurt to look at. We've spent millennia searching for the perfect vessels. Humans were too strong then. But now, he laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You're finally weak enough to override. John struggled to stand, the light within him flickering. The blast had damaged his connection to the core. But as he watched Zix approach Shiana, something else stirred in him, something older than the core, older than the ancient human empire. You're right, John said, his voice steady. Humans are different now. We lost our connection to the core network, lost our ancient knowledge, lost our power. He stepped forward, and where his feet touched the ground, lines of light spread through the city's floor. But we gained something too. Zix fired another blast. John didn't dodge. Instead, he caught the dark energy in his bare hands. Where the two powers met, something new happened. The light under John's skin changed, becoming not just core energy, but something fusion of human and alien power. We learned to adapt. John's voice echoed with power. To change. To take what's foreign and make it part of us. He began walking toward Zix, who fired blast after blast, each one absorbed and transformed. That's why you couldn't corrupt Earth, why you had to try to destroy it instead. The city's systems surged with power, responding to John in a way they never had to the ancient humans. Above them, the rebel fleet's weapons suddenly went dark. General Vex's ship began broadcasting a distress signal. Impossible. Zix's form twisted further, becoming less and less real. The core's power is absolute. No, John reached Zix, his transformed energy now blazing like a sun. Life is absolute. Change is absolute. He pressed his hand against the writhing creature that had been Zix. Let me show you what humanity has really become. Light exploded through the chamber. When it faded, Zix was gone, not destroyed, but cleansed. In his place stood a very confused, very normal assistant, free of corruption. John turned to Shiana, his eyes now swirling with both core light and something else, something new. The rebels aren't the real enemy. They never were. Something's been manipulating your entire civilization, trying to create the perfect conditions for an invasion. How do we stop it? Shiana asked. John looked up at the hologram of ancient human worlds. First, we need to wake up Earth. It's time for humanity to remember who they really are. He held out his hand to her. But I'm going to need a queen's help to do it. Shiana took his hand with all four of hers. Then let's remind the universe why our peoples were once the greatest alliance in history. Above them, the loyal fleet finally arrived. The battle was won. But John knew. The real war was just beginning. The palace's great hall had become a war room. Holographic displays showed thousands of dark energy signatures appearing across the empire. The corruption that had taken Zix wasn't just an invasion force. It was already here. They'd been hiding in the spaces between dimensions, John explained to the assembled alien leaders. His transformed core energy swirled around him, a mix of golden light and electric blue. Everything we've seen, the Civil War, the attacks on Earth, even the fall of the ancient human empire, it was all to weaken the walls of reality. Cheyenne stood beside him, her silver skin now marked with lines of the same hybrid energy. After their linking in the ancient city, she too could channel both core and human power. High Command is compromised, she announced. The corruption has taken root in. The holographic displays exploded with red warnings. Above the palace, the sky began to crack. Literal tears in space-time appeared, leaking darkness that twisted everything it touched. "They're not waiting anymore," John said grimly. "We forced their hand." Through the rifts came things that shouldn't exist. Shadows with too many angles. Light that spread darkness. Sounds that made people bleed. The corrupted members of High Command revealed themselves, their forms twisting into impossible shapes. But they weren't ready for what humanity had become. John raised his hands, and every piece of technology in the palace responded. Not just responding, evolving. The hybrid energy spread through the systems, creating defenses that could adapt as fast as the enemy could change. "Remember what I taught you," he shouted to the other freed humans, who had all begun showing signs of awakening ancient abilities. "Don't fight the core energy. Merge with it. Make it yours." The battle that followed defied description. The corrupted forces kept shifting tactics, trying to find patterns that would work. But humans didn't fight with patterns anymore. Sarah Chen, a former Earth physicist, figured out how to turn the palace's gravity wells into weapons that even beings from beyond space had to obey. Marcus Rodriguez discovered he could see the quantum strings that held reality together and began reweaving them to seal the rifts. But the corruption had one last card to play. John. Cheyenne's voice cut through the chaos. The core chamber. They raced through the palace, passing scenes of impossible combat. The chamber doors had been torn open, reality itself warping around the edges. Inside, the core was changing, its pure energy being pulled into shapes that hurt to look at. "If the core falls," Cheyenne said, "my entire civilization dies." "No," John realized, looking closer at the writhing core. "That's not what they're doing." He pointed to where the corrupted energy was forming patterns. "They're not trying to destroy it. They're trying to turn it into a beacon, to call something here." Through the viewing windows, more rifts were appearing. But these were different, bigger, organized. "An invasion fleet," Cheyenne whispered. "From outside reality itself." John looked at his hands, then at Cheyenne. "You know what we have to do." She nodded. "But the calculations say merging that much power will kill us, maybe. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our power." He held out his hands to her. "It's our willingness to risk everything to protect others." Cheyenne took his hands. Around them, the battle rage. Above them, impossible ships began emerging from the mega rifts. But in that moment, something unprecedented happened. The hybrid energy flowing through them synchronized. Human adaptability met alien core power in perfect harmony. Their combined energy reached out to every human in the palace, every piece of alien tech, every system and circuit, and quantum particle. John opened eyes that now blazed with the light of two civilizations. "Let's show them why you never corner a species that thrives on impossible situations." The core chamber exploded with light, and the real battle began. The merged power of John and Cheyenne exploded outward from the core chamber in waves of golden blue light. As it spread, everything it touched began to transform, not just machines or weapons, but reality itself. The corrupted invaders shrieked in frequencies that shattered windows across dimensions. They hadn't expected this. In all their calculations, they'd never considered that humans wouldn't just adapt to alien power. They would change it into something new. "Look!" Sarah Chen shouted from a nearby quantum terminal. "The hybrid energy. It's rewriting the fundamental laws of physics wherever it touches." Through their shared consciousness, John and Cheyenne could see everything at once. The palace, the empire, Earth, the spaces between spaces where the invaders hid. But most importantly, they could see the truth. It was never about conquest, John's voice echoed with the power of two civilizations. They weren't trying to invade our reality. They were trying to escape their own. Shiana finished, her forearms moving in patterns that bent space-time. Their universe is dying. They wanted to transform ours into a copy of theirs so they could survive. Above the palace, the impossible fleet began to change tactics. Instead of attacking, they started combining, forming a single massive entity that dwarfed planets, a last-ditch effort to survive. But humanity had learned something in the 50,000 years since their fall. Sometimes survival meant helping others survive too. John and Tiana raised their hands together. The hybrid energy responded in a way neither core power nor human adaptation could have managed alone. It reached out to the invaders not with violence, but with an offer. Your universe doesn't have to die. Their merged voices echoed across dimensions. Let us show you how to change instead. The massive entity paused. For a moment, reality held its breath. Then something miraculous happened. The corrupted energy began to shift, not fighting the hybrid power but learning from it. The invaders had spent eons forcing other realities to adapt to them. They'd never considered adapting themselves. The transformation was beautiful and terrible to watch. The entity's impossible angles softened. Its reality-breaking power turned inward, changing its own fundamental nature. The hybrid energy showed it how to exist in harmony with this universe's laws instead of breaking them. In the core chamber, John and Chiana's power reached its peak. Through their connection, every human on Earth felt a momentary awakening, a glimpse of their true heritage and potential. Not conquerors of the stars like their ancestors, but bridges between civilizations. The ancient humans tried to fight the corruption directly, John said, understanding at last. That's why they fell. We needed to learn how to change before we could teach others to change. The entity above the palace began to separate back into ships, but different now. No longer twisted and wrong, but beautiful in an alien way that didn't hurt to look at. The corrupted high command members transformed with them, their forms settling into something new but stable. As the hybrid energy stabilized reality, Chiana turned to John. My people will need help adapting to all this change. Earth will need guidance awakening to its heritage. And now we have refugees from another universe to help integrate. John smiled, the light in his veins now a permanent part of him. Good thing we have experience bringing different peoples together. Around them, humans and aliens began working together to repair the palace. The former invaders, now transformed, offered their own strange but wonderful technologies to help. Earth's dormant defense systems, hidden for 50,000 years, began powering up, not as weapons, but as bridges between worlds. You know, Chiana said, watching it all with glowing eyes, there's an ancient tradition in my culture. When two civilizations face a great challenge together and emerge stronger. John took her hands, all four of them, the hybrid energy singing between them. Are you asking what I think you're asking? The queen of the largest empire in space and the descendant of ancient human star-lords. She laughed. It would certainly make the history books interesting. Above them, the first ships were already heading to Earth, ready to help humanity remember its heritage. Across the empire, the hybrid energy had changed everything. Not by destroying what was there, but by showing it how to become something more. Well, John said, looking out at the star-filled sky that now held infinite possibilities, I did promise to serve the queen. I just didn't expect it would be as king. The core pulsed with renewed energy, its light now permanently changed by the human touch. The age of isolation was over. The age of transformation had begun, and somewhere in the spaces between spaces, other realities watched and wondered if they too could learn to change.